don't know if anyone has flat out said this, so I'm going to be clear with it. Entrepreneurship has grown so drastically over the last few years, and there is one group in particular who I feel like thrives in the world of entrepreneurship. So we're going to talk about it. Welcome back to another episode of the She Can't Quit podcast. Today I want to talk about something that is really close to my personal journey and a lot of questions that I actually get on DMs on Instagram. And that is talking about how to find your space in the entrepreneurship world as a mom. So when I was mapping out this episode and thinking about everything I wanted to talk about, there's so much to this world, which is just both exciting and 100% can be overwhelming when you're trying to find that space yourself and just first navigating it. So it had me thinking back to the beginning of my journey, especially, and how much entrepreneurship has changed because of the digital world and how much the digital space has changed entirely over the last few years. And there was a word that floated around, and I feel like if you were even remotely aware of entrepreneurship or any kind of side hustle that started way back when, probably about like 8 to 10 years ago, it was the word mompreneur. And I feel like it's not used as much. I do feel like it's a word that is dated because for me personally, it's not really a word that I can relate to as much because I feel like there's so much that goes into the world. And I feel like one word and one label does not have all that encompasses what it's like raising a business and raising little ones, which is why I love describing my world in that way, is finding the balance between raising a business and raising little ones, even multiple businesses for my multi-passionate entrepreneurs out there. It's just, there's so much in it that I feel like one word can't even encompass how much is in it. So I figured, kind of thinking back to this word, I feel like that's why people get stuck, because I feel like it's hard to find that space because you're trying to find proof on that. And I feel like the only space where mompreneur may still be used is maybe on some like old blogs. I'm curious to know if you still hear it, if you still use it. For me personally and in my world, it's not a word that I do use, but I do think that the space of finding that is in the in-between world of motherhood and business is 100% real, and there is 100% room for more moms to do that. So I feel like it's one of those things, because the digital world has grown so much, that while we're talking about entrepreneurship, raising and balancing motherhood in collaboration with entrepreneurship is not something that's talked about a lot, because digital world is very fast paced, and I feel like it's very hard to convey everything that is happening behind the scenes and throughout those worlds and when they combine. So it's why I want to kind of bring a little bit of light to it. That is 100% what I love talking about over on my personal Instagram, is sharing all the behind the scenes and whatnot. And it can even be hard to share even that much because there's so much behind it. So for any of you moms who are soon to be moms or one day moms who are hoping to find a space, you know that maybe entrepreneurship is something you 100% can connect with, or you get excited about when you think about it, or following anyone else's journey, then I'm breaking it down in this episode of how to figure out what your specific space might look like, what would be a really good fit, and really looking for those clues of success from other entrepreneurs who are both moms and business owners. So let me give you some validation first, because I feel like that's what many people, if you're searching for this video or searching for this podcast episode, then you are looking for some kind of validation in if the little inkling that you're feeling, the little thought that keeps you up at night, or even just the kind of creative spurts that maybe you're experiencing, if they have any kind of truth, any kind of validation. And if you're here watching this, it's 100% yes. So some signs that I think back to when I first started, and I'm like, wow, I look back to my childhood and I even see it in my oldest too, is the signs of just natural entrepreneurship tendencies, personality traits. I feel like that's huge, of just listening and going with how we're created, how we're designed. And I think specifically a few things when I was writing this down that I think about is that when you find yourself daydreaming and thinking about things that you want to change, and maybe it's coming from a place of inspiration and saying like, wow, I would really love to have more control with my schedule or more flexibility, more taking, the weeks where you need to take it slower or having the weeks where you just want to crush everything out. Maybe it is looking for a space that holds more creativity. Maybe you're not using the skills that you want to use that's in your job right now, whatever role that you have. Maybe it's looking for that creative outlet. Maybe it is learning something completely new or finding a new skill, a new hobby even that you have found that you love and wanting to monetize that and turn that into a business. So if you are watching this, odds are you've looked into at least some kind of searching and validating that idea. So that is one of your biggest signs that entrepreneurship and finding your space in that world may actually really be a good fit for you. I think the other thing this is what I love talking about. This is one of my biggest things that I think changed and has helped support my motherhood journey and why I love being an entrepreneur is because I feel like it absolutely allows me to, one, not only be the best version of myself, but it really allows me to feel fulfilled as a mom. And I know that might feel just like a little bit odd, but it's because I feel fulfilled and it's something that I have all my own outside of motherhood, but I also get to have my babies right there with me, watching me and experiencing and everything that I'm saying or teaching to them. I feel very inspired by them that I am past versions of myself and myself presently right now of showing them that they can do anything, or if there's something I feel like I failed at, how I pick myself back up. And I think more importantly, and especially as a girl mom, this was something really huge to me, was how I talk to myself and how I talk about myself. And that is something that I feel like makes me stand and own and become the best version of myself as I continue to grow, as I continue to make mistakes, as I continue to, fulfill my vision that I feel really connected to. So if you were looking for something outside of motherhood, then it is 100% possible. And I do think that if you relate to anything that I just said, it can make you an even better mom versus the fear that can come inside your mind of being afraid to handle it all. Because I do believe there are usually two different sides that people fall on. It's the fear of failure, and there's also the fear of success. And I absolutely lean towards, I think I've failed enough times and really done a lot of personal growth around the definition of failure. And I am the person who is afraid of success. I'm afraid of, okay, well, what if I actually do it? And now I'm having to juggle and handle all these things. And so that is 100% something that I'm working on. I'm always working on. But if you're nodding your head and have absolutely had that thought, then you're not alone. There are a lot of us. And when things like this is why I really want to bring more questions and topics that aren't talked about a lot to the forefront, because I feel like it makes people feel not so alone. So motherhood and entrepreneurship is a really unique journey, but these are the things that we do need to talk about. Okay, and the last, and this is going to be a really obvious idea, is that you're always finding yourself inspired and excited about new ideas. So maybe it's you saw somebody, like for me personally, when I knew I needed to pivot my entrepreneur journey is because I was so excited and just enthralled with branding and seeing how people marketed themselves, looking at the way that businesses and small brands, how they could elevate it. I just naturally got so excited about it. And it was one of those things where I trusted my intuition, I leaned into my gut, and I started exploring what that would look like and mapping out the pivot that I wanted to make. And we'll have to do another episode on pivoting versus quitting and where to find that line of, because it is a huge mindset thing of feeling like maybe you're leaning away from an idea because you're afraid of failing or afraid of whatever mindset block that you have, and actually being on the other side of pivoting and honoring what you're feeling, letting go of the spaces that don't fit you anymore and kind of outgrowing that. So we'll have to do another episode on that entirely. But if you find yourself super excited about ideas, you find yourself going to bed at night and you're like, wow, like I would love to do something like this. And honestly, even if you have a million ideas, if you can just list them off and be like, I would love to do this and this and this, you probably more often than not are leaning on the side of being a multi-passionate, which 100% can be a possibility, but trust your gut that you are really relating with the entrepreneur side, and it deserves to be explored to see what your space would look like. Okay, so let's actually get into the steps of taking some of those ideas and finding your space in the entrepreneur world. Maybe you are working a 9 to 5 right now and wanting to have something just on the side for some extra, whatever it is, fun money, investing money. Maybe it's just a personal growth journey and you're wanting to see how you can really turn this into a business and just let it flow and grow however it does, but you're wanting to actually give it all that you've got. Maybe you absolutely want to retire yourself or be able to quit and replace your income with your own business versus relying on a 9 to 5. Or maybe it's just really diversifying your income streams, because I am a big believer that in 2024, it's really important not to depend on one income stream, because the world throws things at you when you least expect it. So for me, that is something that I really believe in, and it's discussions that my husband and I have, and something that I absolutely put into the plan that I'm working towards. So when it comes to some of the ideas that you're thinking of, if you're wanting to find your space in the entrepreneur world, I want you to be really careful with not following the money. It needs to first start with the connection, because there are going to be a lot of different spaces where people can make money. And there is a trend going around right now, and I feel like it's a tricky subject for me, because I'm not 100% a believer in it, but I don't want to speak poorly on anyone's decisions, because I think everyone's journey is their own. But a lot of the marketing around it is all about how much money you make, and I've made $15,000 in just my baby's nap time. And I feel like when you follow the money, you start to trade pieces of yourself for that, and you can really get lost in what really inspired you in the first place. Because if you followed any entrepreneur, if you've even listened to any of my story, and if I can tell you something personally, entrepreneurship is absolutely a wild ride. It has a lot of highs, it has a lot of lows, it has a lot of questioning yourself and a lot of different journeys and chapters, and it changes from time to time. But anyone who is absolutely in it and connects with their vision, they're in it for the long haul, and they're in it for those hard moments, because that belief is what's going to get you through. So when you're writing down your possible business ideas, I want you to maybe make a list anywhere, I think honestly, from like 3 to 10, especially if you lean towards multi-passionate, then you're going to have more towards 10, but 3 to 5, if you have to go up to 10, absolutely. And what you need to do is really think about the difference between doing something as a hobby and doing something as a business. What can you see yourself doing or talking about forever? Literally, the question that you want to ask yourself is, what one subject could you talk about forever? And so maybe when it's coming down and looking at your different business models that you want, because that's going to be the next step that you're going to go into, is if you're wanting to be someone who is a face to camera brand, which would be something like coaching, or maybe it's done for you services, anything where you're working one-on-one with clients. And then you have the other part where maybe you want to be behind the scenes. Maybe it's physical products, maybe it's digital products, but you're not having to be the face of the brand all the time, or working with people one-on-one in person, or consulting in any way. So figuring out what you feel like you could do for the long haul is key to making sure that those are connected. So as we go through these questions, you're going to continue to niche down your list, and that'll give you a really good idea of what this space may look like for you. The next step, and I feel like this is really important, is understanding not only your time that you currently have, but the time you want to invest, and getting really honest with yourself of what season you're in. If you are any kind of entrepreneur and really excited about that, you'll be wanting to go 0 to 100 right away, because you're so excited about it. And absolutely honor that energy. But at the same time too, you need to be gracious with yourself that being a mom is a huge role. As you already know, there's so many things that come with it, so much unexpected. But while it is possible to run a business while navigating motherhood, at the same time, you need to make sure that you can set yourself up for success to continue to grow consistently. It just means finding the right balance. And balance is a loaded word, because I feel like there's no such thing as balance, but finding the business model that allows you to enjoy the best of both worlds. So when you're thinking about time that you have, I want you to think about, 1, what does your current season look like? Because in motherhood, we know that's going to change. 2, I want you to think about the biggest things that you're maybe struggling with this season. Maybe it's your baby's not sleeping through the night just yet. Maybe you find yourself though, while baby may be sleeping through the night, you do find yourself to have some creative spurts at night. Maybe it's in the morning nap time, or maybe your kiddos are at school and you find yourself very excited. And if you ever look into your energy and you ever track that and whatnot, there are people who are very creative and productive in the morning. There are also people who are more night owls and they get creative ideas at night. So it kind of depends, and it's really just taking that moment to hold still and figure out what works for you and how you work best, and honoring that and mapping out a plan that fits that. And I just have to say, however you see someone else do it doesn't mean that it's going to be right for you, and vice versa. This is where you get to experience the first power and the amazing abilities of being an entrepreneur, of creating something that works specifically for you in your vision and your dreams. So as you're going through and figuring out what time you have in this season, I want you to also think about how you want to, and I mean just a little bit because things do change, how you want to grow this into, like, once you get through that first little bit of hustle in the beginning, because there are going to be a lot of learning curves. There's going to be a lot of hiccups, but honestly, I always get so excited by people's chapter 1 stories. I love hearing about them. And I want that to excite you, because I've always told myself anytime I've kind of hit any kind of road bump, honestly, even starting YouTube and whatnot, I taught myself how to edit, how to use Final Cut Pro. I watched a lot of videos. I have lost complete footage in videos, but I look back now and I go, wow, I taught myself that. Same with starting a podcast. Everything in this world these days, we have the best tools at our hands. We have people that inspire us. We have Google, we have YouTube. We can absolutely Google our way through things, YouTube our things, because we just have to be not afraid to fail. And when you do that, literally the world has so many possibilities, and you can honestly achieve anything that comes your way. So looking at your time, figuring out what you want your goal and your ideal week to look like in the long term, that's what you're going to be working towards. If that's working 2 hours a day when it's in between school runs, maybe balancing a home, this is how my season has changed and how I've reworked my offers and how I run the agency and how I've planned out my rest of the year, is instead of going from 9 to 5 and working the entire time my kiddos are at school, I have worked it down to have about a 3 to 4 work week. And I take that time to invest in my home and catch up, because my kiddos are still really little. They have long days at school, prepping meals for our family, working on my health and fitness, and honestly taking a slower approach to life in this season, because we have had such a crazy last few years that I knew that that's absolutely what I've needed, and not feeling guilt for that. At the same time too, while I love working with my clients, I needed to recreate my offers with the way that my gut was telling me I need to do, which usually ends up being breaking the rules and doing things that haven't been done, but trusting that that's what I need to do. And this has been something I've had to learn and struggle with throughout my entrepreneurship journey, is trusting that instinct, and it has always paid off. So I had to completely redo everything and trust my gut, even if I hadn't seen it designed before, but creating this work week for me. And honestly, it has worked so well. I don't feel burnt out. I was coming through a season of really feeling burnt out, and it gave me that creativity back to create my brand and my businesses the way that not only worked for me, but a way that worked for my family and how I continue to grow. So I want you to keep that in mind as you're navigating and finding your space and looking through your possible ideas that you have. All right, so now that we've talked about the time that you want to invest in this, the consistency that you're wanting to build with that time, and looking at your ideal week when you're going to be navigating motherhood and business, then I want you to, now we're going to go into the market research. And I'm going to touch on this lightly because this could absolutely be a video on itself, an entire episode. So if that is something that you would want to do, please let me know either down in the comments or just send me a DM over on Instagram when you listen to this podcast. And any questions that come to mind throughout any of this, because I do feel like this is such a big topic. I'm actually going to be doing a part 2 on this, because there is a lot that I've learned. There is a lot of tips that I want to share, and just some different ways that you can set this up when it comes to navigating motherhood and business. So if that is something, if you have questions that come to mind throughout any time of this, just send me a DM on Instagram or just drop it in the comments if you're watching over on YouTube, because there's so much we could talk about this, but I want to make sure that this absolutely is helping you in some way and that you're taking something from every episode that you listen to. So when it comes to market research, I want you to go through, ideally, you're probably going to have about 3 ideas here that you're wanting to start with, or maybe you know exactly what it is you want to do, that you connect with, that you know that you have the time and the willpower, the connection to continue to grow, even if it's maybe through some hard seasons or a hard week, and that you can consistently get excited about and do and step out of that hobby phase. Then your market research, you're going to first remind yourself how connected you are to this, because this is a phenomenon that happens, and I'm sure that, I don't know the exact name of it, but if you are looking at a red car and you're like, wow, I think I really want a red car, all of a sudden you notice all the red cars around you. Your brain becomes more aware because that is what you're subconsciously focusing on without even knowing it. So when you're first starting a business and you're starting to look out there, then you start realizing how many there are that you didn't see before. And this can absolutely start talking to and feeding that imposter syndrome, talking to your inner mean girl. And this is usually the point where people jump ship and they're like, I don't think I can do it. I'm too afraid of that. There is absolutely a difference between, and there's power in this mindset of, instead of seeing others as competition, see it as proof that service, that space is needed. And that's what needs to get you excited about it, because there is a way to carve out your own little space. Even though the online world is noisy, there will always be room for you to make it your own and grow and serve your people there. Like I've always said, there can be 1,000 people who do exactly what you do, but no one can do it the way that you do. So when you're going and doing your market research, you're going to first test your idea and see what is working and what is not working. So let's say, for instance, digital products. If you're going to go look at digital products, you're going to go look and see what kind of digital products are really working and what kind of digital products aren't. If you're wanting to do, for example, digital planners, you're going to go out and research what people are really loving. A good place for this, that people sell digital planners, you can either do it on your website directly and drive traffic there. You can do something like Etsy, which is a third-party platform. And you can go and see what people are really loving about certain digital planners. Is it the undated ones? Is it something that has a theme? Is it something that maybe is super customized to a specific niche? I've seen a huge rise in ADHD planners, and I think that's amazing. It's such a unique idea. And then I want you to see what's not performing well. Maybe it's something that is too broad that is not performing well. And so you're going to go and do this research, make notes about it. And then with that in mind, you're going to find what they call as the market gap. You're going to find what audience is not being served. So for instance, the ADHD planners, I think that is amazing that somebody found that they maybe this was inspired with their own brain and planning and mapping it out and saying, I really love this, works well for me. I definitely lean on the neurodivergent side. I'm absolutely going to create a planner that I think would help other neurodivergent women. And maybe it's moms. Maybe the specific niche is not only ADHD people, but ADHD moms who are holding multiple roles, who are carrying and balancing all the things in the different seasons of life, and their brain is neurodivergent. So creating those planners serves a specific group of people. And while I don't always believe in niching, niche offers are where the gold mine is. So as you go through those ideas, you're going to see what specific group of people you can talk to and create a specific offer or product. Another thing, if you're thinking about product-based, is if you think about baseball caps. I thought about this the other day because I had happened to find one in my drawer as I was cleaning some things out, and there are a million hats out there. And then you can go into women's baseball caps. You can do different styles, designs, different materials. But then you start thinking about the problems of the people who wear these. And what about women with ponytails? Then all of a sudden you saw a rise of hats that have the ponytail slip right on the top there that you can slip your ponytail through and still wear a ponytail while wearing a hat. It's the same way beanies started doing that as well. So the people behind these brands were able to find a common problem that people were having and solve it and speak to just that small group of people compared to entirely on its own. The other way you can do this too is really connecting with a story and sharing a unique perspective to why. A great example of this is the Love Your Melon campaign, the hats that started out with such a story. And while it may just be a beanie and a lot of people don't understand the story behind it until they get in the brand, they become people who are very loyal to the brand. So don't count yourself out if you can't necessarily find that gap just yet in the market. It will come to you the more that you sit with it. But at the same time too, there is power in storytelling and there's power in purpose when you start creating things like that. All right. So as you've gotten to the bottom of your list, I hope at this point are really excited about it and excited to get going. And I just have to say, there are going to be a few common things that you run into during this process. And the majority of it is going to be problems that your inner mean girl and imposter syndrome is trying to get you to steer away from. But I want you to push through, because every entrepreneur and any person that you compare yourself to out there has 100% been where you are. And anyone who has ever achieved a goal that you are working towards will always reach down and help you up and cheer you on. Because as you navigate your entrepreneur journey, you're going to get people who don't believe or see your vision. You're going to get people who just don't understand it. And odds are they're going to be some of the closest people to you. And there's even going to be times where that's going to get too close to your heart and you'll feel that. And it's going to try to dim that light of your vision. But the reason that it is so important to first start building and finding your space on that connection is because of this, because there are always going to be people who are trying to steal your light. There's always going to be people that try to dim the power of your vision that you know is bigger than you can even understand. And there's going to be people that just don't understand why you're working so hard. And you even question yourself if you have enough to prove it to them, but you don't have to prove it to them, because you're the one that knows the story. You were the one that was given the vision. You were the one that was trusted with this because it was what you were meant to do. And even if you don't understand it fully now, it will reveal itself the more that you keep walking through. As I always say, the clarity comes in the action. Even if you're only taking the smallest step in front of you at a time, as you keep going, you'll continue to understand it, and you'll look back on those chapters and understand why things happened the way that they did. But you obviously are watching this for a reason, which means that you find a connection in the entrepreneur space. So I hope that these questions were helpful in helping you navigate it a little bit more. And if you have any questions, please make sure to send them over on DM or drop them in the comment box below if you're watching over on YouTube, so that I can include it over in part 2 and make sure that this episode is really worth it for you. I am so excited. I hope you guys know that I'm always cheering you on. I'm so grateful that you're all here, and I will see you in the next video.